children's book authors and maybe authors in general, we tend to struggle with the whole marketing, publicity, advertising side of the job. We're really great at writing, we're really good at creating, but when it comes to actually promoting our work, that's where we struggle. Well, today here on the Coffee and Kidlit Show, I have some very special guests from Expound Publicity, and they're going to show exactly what, or share exactly what the difference is between marketing, advertising, and publicity, which I didn't even know myself until recently. So I hope you'll enjoy that conversation, and welcome back to the Coffee and Kidlit Show. I've taken a few months break to focus on some of my own writing and took a little time to get back into it. But the Coffee and Kidlit Show is all about welcoming on children's book authors to talk about their stories and to talk about the journey that they took to produce their books. And so I hope that you will follow along and get to know some of these authors as well as their books and enjoy some content from industry professionals like we have today. So tune in and let's see what Lori and Allie have to say from Expound Publicity. I'm here with Lori and Alysson. Welcome to you both. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. We're going to be talking a bit about marketing and publicity and sort of what the differences are and what authors, especially self-published authors, can do themselves. And then also, when is the right time to sort of move forward with a company like Expound Publicity? And so just Lori and Alysson, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit of your background and what brought you to this point and yeah, a little bit of your history.
Sure. I can start with my background and then Allie can jump in with hers and tell you a little bit about how we came to be. It's a really cool story. So my background is in journalism. And when I graduated from college, I went into public relations and marketing. And so I worked on campaigns for Breyer's ice cream, which was delicious, McDonald's, did all kinds of stuff like that, and ended up helping to launch some world-class exhibits in partnership with like Pixar and Lego at different museums in Chicago. And my last, I say, real job, not working for myself, I was the director of marketing at PBS in Chicago. And so I think marketing books is just so much more fun and personal. And I even, I'm an author myself, so I have a book tattoo. And I always joke that, writing books is just way better than promoting anything else.
What kind of books have you written?
So I have written 4 children's books. They're lesson-based rhyming books about things that happen to my family. I have 3 daughters, and they keep me on my toes. So different things that we've gone through that I said, wow, there should be a book for that.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I'm Allie, short for Alysson, and I have a background in elementary education. I taught school for a year and decided to go off to law school. I practiced law as an assistant attorney general for about 8 years before deciding just to stay at home and have a temporary retirement with my kids, who were very young at the time. And so with no plans of, not going back, I started writing them children's books and just stories for bedtime reading. And so after sending off manuscripts, because they love the story so much, to different publishers, I ended up getting picked up by a publisher. I started the Alley Cat series, which is a children's book series based on cat characters. They're all lesson based. I just released my latest one, the 7th one in the series, yesterday.
Wow.
So,
congratulations.
Thank you. And so along the way, I began marketing my own books, doing different podcasts. Lori and I ended up teaming up during the pandemic to help other authors market their books. And so one thing led to another. One client ended up being over 500 clients now that we've helped with their book marketing journey. And But needless to say, I haven't gone back to practicing law because this is just, like Lori said, way more fun, so rewarding, and being a part of someone's book journey is just, it's just everything.
And Allie didn't mention the coolest part, and people usually their mouths drop when we tell them, but we started this business, as Allie said, back in 2020 before ever meeting in person, and we worked together for about 8 months or a year without actually ever meeting in person. And so we were able to kind of get together in New Orleans with our families, and it was just like the coolest thing, because here you are talking to somebody on the phone, on Zoom, on text constantly, but not actually meeting them. So it's a really fun story, and it was the silver lining for us to the pandemic.
What, just talking about your business a little bit and your different backgrounds, what did you see? Like, did each of you have different strengths that you were able to bring to the organization?
Yes, absolutely. So, Lori talked about her background in marketing, which is very extensive and super impressive. And so she's marketed different products. And I have a background in education. And then I had years of promoting my own books. And then, of course, a legal background. So, we're so different, but we often say we're one brain because we're always on the same page. And, our goal is just to get results for our clients. And if you have that one goal, usually things just kind of work out, and we really just mesh well.
That's great. I know you recently went through sort of a change as a company. You mentioned that in an email to me, that previously you were Forward Publicity, I believe, and then you changed your name and your brand. Walk me through that. Tell me why you decided to make that change and what it means going forward.
Pun intended, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We're almost at the 4-year mark with our business. And so we kind of did a deep dive and evaluated where we were since we started, how we've changed, and how we're going to move forward. Another pun intended, how we're going to grow. And so, we thought a lot about the name Forward was derived from during COVID, helping clients realize that their book journey is about putting one foot in front of the other and just moving forward past like the initial. A lot of our clients were just afraid to put themselves out there. And so it was kind of taking those first steps, whether, hypothetically during COVID, or just if they're a little bit more introverted. And, we were kind of thinking we only had a few services at the time. And now we want to help clients like make a statement. Expound really means it's an actionable word. It's a verb. It means to make a statement. And so we want to help authors not just put one foot in front of the other, but actually create a platform for themselves as an author and sustain that platform so they have brand recognition behind them. And so it's about more than just taking those first steps. It's about building a whole platform for authors to succeed.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one of the things I really wanted to discuss with you, because I didn't even know it myself. I'm just really trying to learn the whole marketing cloud. I mean, there's just so much to it. And I know that there is a difference between marketing and publicity, and even advertising fits in there somehow. Can you just give us a quick sort of breakdown what the differences are between those three and how they're also sort of connected in a way?
Sure. And Allie, feel free to jump in, of course. Marketing is kind of like the overall bucket that we dump everything into. So marketing encompasses advertising, it encompasses publicity. And so when we look at marketing, it's the bigger picture. It's the bigger strategy. So it includes paid media too. So it could include things that you're paying for, advertising, different social media advertising, different content marketing partners on social media, different paid content partners like in different magazines. And publicity is strictly earned media. So the difference with that is you're not paying for publicity. You're sharing your story with the world, hopefully with the right people, in hopes that people will find out about your book, targeted audiences, and hopefully take action. And the way that we look at marketing in general is like a funnel. So I'm sure that you guys have all seen the funnel, but it starts with the awareness. And so our goal is to drive people from awareness to consideration to intent to purchase. And so all of those things work together. When you have a marketing strategy, it may encompass building credibility for yourself by having professional reviews of your book. It may include going on a book tour or having, a virtual book tour, or actually going on a physical tour, or putting a press release out into the newswire and coupling that with an article about yourself. And so the goal is to really make these things mesh well together to get the right audience to buy your book at the right time.
Yeah. I'm sort of, in this phase of doing the self-editing and beta reading of my current manuscript. And one thing that I've learned early on in my author career, this will be my third book that I'm working on, and many people have said you should start marketing your book from the very beginning. But is that also what you two recommend, that authors should start from the very beginning, or should I think there's this hesitation of, well, if I don't have too much to share, how can I make sure I have enough information, or how can I consistently share things to keep them excited? What's your response to that?
So it's definitely important to share prior to releasing a book. I usually start about 8 months prior to releasing. I start sharing the inspiration behind the book. Let's say I am a new author and I have no previous works. Well, I would share other people's works. I would start talking about the trade industry. I would talk about books that I enjoy. Get those, bookstagrammers, those readers, that fan base, active and seeing that you're about to come into the industry. What I like to do is just tease different things that maybe it's a hometown library where I grew up, and that's where, stories started, coming into my head. Maybe it's just a picture of me in my writing space, or my favorite, food that I like to eat while writing. And so getting to know the author is super important for your fan base. They want to know about you. They want to know what they're reading about, and they want to know what inspired you and get that connection. So we really strongly advise our clients to build that author foundation, not only your book foundation.
And some of our authors even have blogs, whether it's weekly or monthly, where they offer that consistent peek behind the curtain of who they are and why they wrote the book. A lot of our authors, and authors in general, I mean, most people wrote a book because there's a void in the world, and they wrote a book for a reason, whether it's a book that they didn't have as a child, or a book that they want their child to see now. So it's about uncovering that reason and sharing with the public, not just I wrote a book, but your why and who are you?
Yeah. And that's actually, we're getting more into something that I wanted to discuss, and that's just the sort of the do-it-yourself marketing tips. What can authors do? And you've already started to talk about that a bit. But I'm also thinking, between our own personal websites and social media, and beyond the online community, how are some ways that authors, and in addition to what you've already mentioned, what can authors do to sort of promote and market their books in these different areas?
So just to piggyback a little bit off of Allie's social media tips, one thing we love is the daily calendar. The different months or weeks or days, there's always a celebration for something. We had a client write a book about a squirrel, and there's actually a National Squirrel Day. There's different squirrel endangerment holidays. And so identify where your book fits into some of those cool and unique days, and use those to talk about your book, as well as there is a plethora of literary holidays. we just came off of Read Across America Month, but there's National Library Month. Take your book into a library, make bookmarks, drop them at your library, take pictures and videos of you doing that. Just stay engaged and use every literal day as an opportunity to talk about your book.
So I love to go and do little free library scavenger hunts, especially during the summer. And so those are those little boxes where you can leave a book, take a book. And so what I do is I donate a copy, I post it on my social media, and I say, guess where this is. And they usually go and try to find it. And sometimes I'll leave little gift baskets. Bookmarks are great too if you don't have your books yet, but doing fun things like that during the summer, it's such a great way to get yourself out there. You can go to summer camps at the zoo, summer camps at different, churches and public libraries. Stop by for a visit. Bring coloring sheets. Bring, bookmarks. Any kind of little swag. Introduce yourself. There's so many things that you can do, especially with social media out there.
Mhm.
I also think it's great to collaborate with other authors that have like-minded books. So Allie just talked about summer. So many authors write about summer camp experiences. The great thing about the author community, especially the self-published author community, is there's so much love there, and there's so much actual community and chatting. And so find authors that have like books and promote with them. And so you can do a graphic, these are the top picks for, National Summer Month or whatever it is. These are the top picks for June, and co-promote with each other. You can even do discounts on your books through KDP and promote together. There's so many tips to be shared and collaborations to be had.
Hey authors, I hope you're really enjoying this content today, and I wanted to give you a free gift. If you head over to my website, launchmissioncreative.com, you'll see a button at the top for the beta test checklist. If you have just finished up your manuscript and you're working on the self-editing phase of your book, or maybe you're almost ready to move on to an editor and you want to do that beta test correctly, I've developed a whole checklist of 40 questions that you can ask your beta readers to really maximize the feedback that you get. If you're like me previously and I've just asked readers what they thought of the book, you get these really fluffy, basic answers, and usually they may be afraid to really tell you the truth. And they may say, oh, this is wonderful, this was such a great story. Well, using these questions that I have on this checklist, you will really get some detailed feedback in 7 buckets, 7 categories that we look at. So be sure to download that today by going to launchmissioncreative.com, and you'll see the link at the top of the page. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I think that's really great, and you've given some really creative ways that authors can just let people know about their books. Like I think of the squirrel book that you mentioned, and the National Squirrel Day. Is that what it was? But just different, because you may not think that your book really fits in a niche, and I think it's very important that you do choose a niche for your book, but some stories, it may not be so clear what niche they fit into. But if you can find something like that to grab onto and to use in collaboration with your book, I think it's very, very helpful. So when an author feels like they have sort of done everything they can, or maybe they're not sure what else they can do, when is the right time for them to turn to Expound Publicity or a similar company to sort of help them get beyond that and do some things that maybe they can't do on their own?
So we help authors at all stages. Some people come to us in the beginning, and we love when we get to work with an author who also wants to do DIY. So that expanded publicity strategy it works really great. And so
Mm.
really depends on the author's goals, the author's budget, and their time. We have authors who have, a full-time job, and so they can't manage the marketing. So we do that for them. We have authors who Lori and I they have books, but she knows what I'm going to say. We call it book CPR. It's when your book is kind of, dead in the water and you want to revive it. So we come in and help. It gets tiring after a while, and sometimes you need those new ideas. And so we help jumpstart that. It depends on your budget, of course, because, not doing it yourself and hiring a company comes at a cost. But we do believe that it's worth the exposure. And, you wrote your book for a reason to get your message out there. And you know, what you were saying about the author doing things for themselves is that the author is the expert of their book. We're the experts of marketing. And so, or, Lori more or less is the actual expert of marketing. And so, it's so important that we all use our strengths and build from that. And so, we had a book that was an author with a book that was about diabetes. And so she had diabetes, and we helped her create herself as the expert on diabetes. So she was able to share some of that content and collaborate and partner with all of these different foundations. And so we really like to work with authors who are kind of at a standstill of where do I go next? And we can kind of create those brand new ideas, those fresh ideas, and work with them. So they're still DIY, but of course, they have a team now to help them expand.
And if an author has the luxury of time, I say luxury because time is completely a luxury for authors. It's go, go, go. But in an ideal world, if you're launching a book, it would be great to have a conversation with us about 8 months out so we can help plan a strategy for pre-launch, launch, and beyond. It scares people when we say this, but the average shelf life of a book is about 3 to 6 months without marketing. And so the goal in marketing is to just extend that shelf life, to give it, an evergreen theme, and as well to find different thematic connections throughout the year. And, the goal would be to keep that book on the shelf just as long as Shel Silverstein's books have been on the shelf.
Well, talk to me a little bit more about that book CPR, because you just mentioned that the average shelf life is 3 to 6 months. So let's say we have an author that's beyond 6 months, maybe they're beyond a year, and the book is, like you said, dead in the water. What can they do to revive it? Is there still that chance? Can you bring a book back to life, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we would recommend is, kind of a joint approach to it. So we would advise that author to maybe recreate the cover and have a brand new cover, something new, maybe reprint with a forward added to the front, just something extra. And then we would also recommend things like a virtual book tour and getting on a book blogging tour. We facilitate review submissions, which are editorial professional reviews. That gets your book out there, it revives it. Of course, submitting to awards, we have a success rate of 100% for getting our clients awards for their books, because we align them with award companies that are aligned with their content. And so also social influencer outreach is something that we do to try to promote them to different bookstagrammers, librarians, teachers. There's just such a big world out there. And so it's never the end for a book. It's definitely something that can be revived, and we love to see that new life in a book, because there's always readers out there. I do author visits, and it just surprises me every year, thinking I'm going back to the same school. They already know my book. Well, they're getting a new batch of kids every year, kindergarten, first and second. And so there's always new readers out there.
And we're
Yeah.
also big fans of partnerships. Partnerships are so important, aligning yourselves with third-party organizations, whether it's, and we like kind of a charitable hook, and not everyone could afford to do kind of like a proceeds donation with a charity. So it could be aligning yourself with a charity and donating 20 copies of your book or 50 copies of your book. I had a book. It's about a pair of socks that go missing from the dryer, and they go to a White Sox game. And so I wanted to partner with the White Sox to build the Chicago White Sox, the MLB team, to build the hype. And I noticed that they have a charity, a White Sox charity, that distributes books to low-income children in schools. And so I was able to partner with them, and it kind of gave my book a new life, because then you talk about the charity aspect. And so as Ali mentioned, we have a client who partnered with the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. She partnered with Massachusetts General Hospital. Even if it's just going in for a reading, it's discovering, like tapping into those true audiences that are going to resonate the most with your book, and forming some kind of partnership, whether it's charitable or whether it's content related. It really goes a long way.
That's really great. Just sort of land the plane here. I had a couple of questions from a couple of my followers, and one of them was that they wanted to know how to put together a media kit and press release, and that may be a larger discussion than what we can cover in a few moments. But do you have any just tips on what to include in something like that?
So the best thing to include in the media kit would be a press release, a sell sheet, and maybe a backgrounder about you and a photo. The press release is definitely probably a larger discussion, because the press release is the most forward-facing piece that you're going to have. Especially when it comes to the media, they're going to look at that press release and they're going to want to scan it and see, what is the hook? Why do I care? Is it a local author? Is it a local author combating a problem in the community? So it's really making that messaging tight and succinct. You want the who, what, where, why, when, how, and you want it as tight and as clear as possible. Ali probably has tips about the things like the sell sheets, because she's the designer out of the two of us. But for the press release, I think it's really honing in on your why and getting that clear.
Yep. And so the sell sheet is really important for bookstores, boutiques, anywhere that wants to order your books. And so it's super important to put the ISBN number. That's the first thing that these buyers go to, is looking at ISBN number, putting your wholesale discount on there. Make it easy for them to buy, of course, retail price. The trim size, they want to know that they have placement on their shelves. They have, enough room for your book. And of course, your cover image, your contact info, of course, is super important. I like to put a QR code on some of my order sheets and link it to my website, where they can see recent media hits.
And keeping those media hits updated too is so important. If you have a bookstore going to your, to see who you are, you want to make sure that they know that you're in the news, you're top of mind, your last hit wasn't 2019. It's important to get around to doing that. Even if you carve out just an hour a week to upload that to your website, it's important.
Yeah, and like you said about the press releases, and I'm thinking, I know you help with awards and maybe with reviews and things like that. Do you think those are newsworthy material that maybe you would release a press release about winning an award or receiving a review from an organization? Would you release a press release for something like that?
Absolutely. Anything can be newsworthy. That's what we say in publicity and marketing. It's just how you spin it.
Okay. Yeah. And those are all services that you offer?
Yes. We have over 35 services that we offer. We like to be in a a full year campaign with our clients. So we have, an initial phase, and then, building that hype, and then growing the foundation. Of course, some people don't have time or budget for a year-long campaign, and that's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
But we have things that we do throughout the entire year, even social media management, because some of us don't like to be on social media, and some of us don't have time for it. So we have people on staff who manage that. We build websites. That way the author can have a foundation. We do book trailers too. So not just media, content marketing. We also, we do event kits, author kits. We do everything pretty much that you need to maintain and build your foundation as an author.
And we
Yeah.
kind of look at, when we bucket those services, we kind of put it into 3 different buckets, which can be done interchangeably, but it's building credibility for you as an author. And so you mentioned some of the professional reviews and awards that goes within that building credibility. So does website and social media establishment. And then you also have the building the hype phase, and the hype is everything getting people excited. So it could be the partnerships, it could be the social media postings, it could be the virtual book tours. And then we kind of look to grow beyond Amazon and bookstores. So many authors really just get stuck on their Amazon sales, or that I'm not in this local bookstore. But there's so many more opportunities. I mean, toy stores are constantly looking for children's books. Daycares are looking for children's books. We're really coaching authors to kind of widen their horizons.
That's awesome. And just from my own experience, I've had a lot of success with a certain book fair that I've gotten in contact recently that has really bought a lot of books from me. And so I think, like you said, it's important to think beyond just Amazon ads. There are so many different options out there for us. Do you have any last words of advice? Anything that you can share, maybe that we haven't discussed yet?
I would say, personally, marketing is a marathon, not a sprint. And so it's not about getting everything done fast. It's about getting everything done right and taking the time and breathing and strategizing. You don't want to just throw spaghetti at a wall and hope it sticks, but this is money, this is time, whether you're doing it with a publicity firm or doing it yourself. You want to make sure everything makes sense for your book. And so look at your book, kind of place yourself in the mind of a perfect consumer, make a list. Who are those target audiences and how can you reach them? And start from there and do a really strategic plan rather than just looking at other people and saying, okay, they went to a farmer's market, I'm going to go to a farmer's market. They went to, an author visit, I'm going to do this. You've got to be careful with your time, especially. It's so easy to burn out because authors wear many hats. And so delegate when you can, really focus on what you're good at. And likely for authors, it's going to be the writing and the organizational piece, but outsource for things that you need help on.
That's good advice. Allie, any last words from you?
So, yeah, everything Lori said, we look at marketing as a wheel. And so all the different tactics are different spokes of the wheel that make it go round. And once, an author, any person who has a product understands that it's not one thing. There is not one thing that's going to, make or break you. It's all of the things. It's the endurance, perseverance. It's that marathon that Lori talked about that will help your book. And also, I always tell all the authors is have more than one book. Have a plush toy if you have a children's series. Have other things and develop almost like a shop of your book too. So
a brand.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
A brand.
Yeah. That's really great. I really appreciate you both coming on the show and just talking about an area that a lot of authors struggle with. And I think there, like we said, there's a lot of options out there, not only that authors can do themselves, but to know that there's a company like Expound Publicity and others that people can turn to help them figure out what they don't know how to do, I think is extremely important. So how can authors find you? What's the best way to contact you?
So they can contact us through our website. It's expoundpublicity.com. There's a tab right there to book a consult with us. You can connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, or email info@expoundpublicity.com. And Allie or I, we have a staff, but it's always us. We're always the main point of contacts for every client. We will get back to you usually within a few hours. Sometimes within a few minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate you both being on the show and talking a little bit more about this. I just want to welcome our audience, anyone who's watching. Please, if you like this kind of content, if you are looking for more information about marketing or publicity, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Very close to 200 subscribers, which is very small, but I'm excited to reach it. Thank you so much. And I always like to end with this acknowledgement or encouragement for our authors. Go and write the book. Thanks so much.